Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you are listening to the Meditations and More podcast here on the littleshaman.com, brought to you by Transrelational Healing, shamanspiritcenter.com, and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today, I wanted to talk to you about something that is extremely common for people dealing with narcissists of any type, and that is looking for a loophole in order to avoid or get around the reality of the situation. Dealing with pathologically narcissistic personalities is generally extremely difficult. It's exhausting, it's painful, it's frustrating, it's confusing. Nothing makes any sense, and these personalities are often oppositional, contrary, and difficult just because. They tend to be abusive, withholding, punitive, manipulative, dishonest. They're often paranoid, delusional, hyperreactive, or withdrawn and cold. Add to that the fact that in many situations, this is all occurring inside of relationships that matter greatly to people. It could be someone's partner, their parent, their sibling, or other family member. These are relationships that people can find it very difficult to walk away from, especially if they're being told that the reason for all the problems is that they are doing or saying or feeling things that they are actually not doing or saying or feeling. Other people might feel like they can't walk away from these relationships, and even though that's not true, this fact often does not change how people feel. When faced with such an unpleasant choice, people often look for ways around the unpleasantness. They want there to be a way out of the situation that does not include severing the relationship or having to face the unpleasant reality that the relationship is just not ever going to be what they wanted it to be. They're looking for a loophole so that they can still get what they want. When talking about narcissism and these dynamics, unfortunately, that is very common. We hear it from people all the time. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to accept that. There has to be a way. There must be something people can do. But what about this and what about that? Virtually everybody goes through this whenever they hear that there is no way to peacefully coexist with someone they care about. Sometimes people even get angry when they hear it, accusing others of not trying hard enough, not caring enough, giving up, discrimination even, and more. Others look for ways to somehow mitigate the information, such as, my situation is different because, or if I could just get them into therapy, then. Still, others claim to accept the situation, but then they continue to look for ways around it in order to get what they want from this person, whatever that might be, such as trying to find ways to manipulate the narcissist in their life or beat them at their own game. These things really all come down to the same thing: denial, an inability or even a refusal to accept the reality of what this really is. If you're dealing with a pathologically narcissistic personality, there is no safe or successful way to interact with them. That's it. But I refuse to accept that. But my situation is different. But what about therapy? But there has to be a way. No, there doesn't. And there's not. We can refuse to accept that, but we're only hurting ourselves if we don't. We can go through years of trying to prove this reality untrue, only to come to the same end result that everybody else did and that we really were already told. It doesn't work. It will not ever work because you can't control other people, whether they're narcissistic or not. This part of it isn't even really about narcissism. It's just about reality and facts. You cannot control other people, and you can't make them do things that they won't do. There's no way around that. Ironically, narcissists understand that very well, even if they don't realize that they understand it. That's why they use manipulation. They understand that if somebody just won't do something, the narcissist has no ability to make the person do it. They use that person's empathy, sense of fairness, guilt, and more against them in order to try to influence their choices, because in the end, it ultimately is that person's choice, and narcissists know that. That's why they react so strongly to being told no. It reminds them that they actually have no power over other people at all. People end up saying yes to narcissists because of how they feel, not because narcissists have some kind of control over them. They end up saying yes because of their own guilt and empathy and sense of fairness and all the things that are being used against them. Those are their own feelings. The problem with this is It doesn't work in reverse. This will not work on narcissists. You cannot weaponize their own better nature or sense of fairness or guilt or empathy against them because they don't really have any. Even if they did, as soon as they realized that you were going to get something out of the deal or that they would be doing what you want by doing whatever the thing, that puts an end to it right there, usually, because that's how this personality works. If they do what you want, you win, which means they lose, which means they lost the power and control, which means that ain't happening. This adversarial mindset precludes any possibility of them saying yes. Because power and control are not such a big deal in the lives of most people, there seems to be a lack of general understanding of just how big a motivation these things are for narcissistic personalities. It isn't just power and control for their own sake and like, cool if I got them, but cool if I don't. As we discussed in the episode of the show entitled Living with the Enemy and Narcissists in the Power Position, these two things represent literal survival for narcissists. This means they are absolutely, unequivocally non-negotiable. When we can understand this simple fact, then we can see very clearly why there is no loophole to be exploited here. They have closed them all up. This is not a coincidence. The pathologically narcissistic personality believes that if they do what you want in any capacity, including just hearing the words that you're speaking, they lose. There's no way to interact with this safely or successfully. It just can't be done. The whole situation is treated as a contest, a battle that they have to win. You are an automatic adversary, and there's no way you can change that perception because of the way this personality operates. It has nothing to do with you, in other words. Your actions essentially impact nothing in any real way. They don't matter. It's like being in a dream where you are witnessing something happening and you can be affected by the thing. You can move and scream and react, and you can even be impacted physically in the dream, but you can't actually influence or change anything that's happening. In hundreds of years, no one has found a way around this. That's because there isn't one. If someone is bound and determined to believe what they believe, they will find a way to do that no matter what. This is true even for people who do not have the very serious mental health and processing issues that pathologically narcissistic personalities have. You add those into the mix, and you've got about a snowball's chance in hell of ever getting anywhere with this person. It simply is not possible. Human belief is very strong. The human ego is one of the most powerful forces on the planet, even when it's a healthy ego, and this is not hyperbole. You are up against delusional belief and pathological ego in this situation. These things are so big and so powerful that you cannot get around them. All you can do is wreck right into them, and they will not yield. In the end, you will. You won't have a choice because there's nothing else to do. People often get caught up in the idea of, but in the end they must see, but eventually they have to admit, but when it's all said and done, they'll be forced to acknowledge. No, they don't. They won't. Have you ever seen anything from this person that makes you genuinely believe that that's true? If you have, you have. But if you're dealing with a pathologically narcissistic person, I bet you haven't. They don't have to see or admit or acknowledge anything that they don't want to see or admit or acknowledge. That's the whole point here. They don't have to, and you cannot make them. You can potentially make them physically face consequences, such as if they go to jail for committing a crime against you. You can potentially make them physically live with what they have done, for example, by exiting the relationship, but you can't make them face the reality of why these things are happening or that their actions caused it. This they never have to accept if they choose not to, and generally they choose not to. They believe that other people are the problem. It's the same with everything. They don't have to believe that, for example, you're a good person, or that you care about them, or that therapy will help them, or that decent people actually exist, or that doing the right thing is best for everybody, including them, or that compromising isn't losing, or that manipulating other people is wrong, or literally anything else. They don't have to accept what day of the week it is if they don't want to accept that, and you cannot make them. It is what it is. Stop looking for a loophole. Stop looking for a way around reality. Stop trying to control this person. Stop looking for a safe way to interact with an unsafe person or a way to game the system. It doesn't exist. As they used to say in the old beer commercials, know when to say when. Know when enough is enough. Many times people will say things like, but I'm not giving up just because it's hard. I'm going to fight for my relationship, or I'm going to fight for my family. Fighting for your family or your relationship is very noble, but in this context, it's not noble. It's pointless. It's damaging. Fighting for your family or your relationship is one thing. You should not be having to fight the person or the people that you're trying to have the relationship with. If you have to do that, it's not a relationship. It's not a family. Relationships are work, yes. They ain't this much work. They're not a constant battle just to be seen and heard. They're not fighting nonstop just to be treated like a human being. Also, if you're fighting for the relationship or to keep the family together, what is the other person doing? Think about that. Really think about that. You're trying to protect or save your family or your relationship from the other person or people that are in it. Does that sound at all to you like something that should be happening? Does that even sound like a relationship to you? If you have to fight the other person or people in the relationship, it's not a viable relationship. To be frank, it's not a relationship at all. It's not worth saving. There's nothing to save. You're not giving up on anything because there's nothing to give up on. This is a one-sided situation, and you cannot have a relationship by yourself. The other person or the other people have to do 100% of their stuff, and if they will not do that, there's no relationship. It is what it is. This is really hard for many people to accept, but if we can't do that, we're only causing ourselves more pain in the end. There are no loopholes here. There are no loopholes, there are no exceptions, and there are no ambiguities. If you're dealing with a narcissist, you will have virtually the same outcome everyone else has had for hundreds of years, a bad one. However that plays out, whatever actually happens, it will be bad. We all want to believe that our situation is unique, that we are unique, that the person we're dealing with is unique. And our situations are all different, but they're also all the same. Minor differences don't justify a presumption of a different outcome. After all, whether you're eating pistachio or vanilla or chocolate or Rocky Road, you're still eating ice cream. To argue that the flavor of the ice cream constitutes some fundamental difference is just not logical. It's not reasonable. It would be like saying, I'm severely allergic to fish, but this is grilled fish, so that's different. It's not different. It's still fish, which means you still can't have it. Now, the only reason anybody would even attempt something like that is because they really want to eat the fish. They're looking for a loophole that makes it possible for them to have the fish. But there aren't any loopholes here. They're allergic to fish, therefore they can't have any fish, regardless of how it's prepared. To eat it anyway would be dangerous and a refusal to accept the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is no fish ever. That's it. It's the same with narcissists. The reason people are looking for loopholes is because they really want to have a relationship with this person. Well, there aren't any. So it doesn't matter how much people want to have a relationship with this person because they can't. That might sound harsh, but reality is not always kind. If we are going to grow and mature and be healthier, one of the most important things to remember is that we have to do what's best for us, even if it's not what we want. As adults, we have to make peace with the fact that just because we want something doesn't mean we can have it. Sometimes you don't get what you want. Sometimes even if you try your hardest and your best, it still doesn't work. Part of being a healthy adult is understanding this and learning to deal with it because it's a part of life. We don't always win. Things are not always fair. Learning how to deal with this kind of thing is crucial if we're going to develop the resilience that we need to move forward, especially after a relationship that is so damaging. That doesn't mean we just roll over and let bad things happen to us, but it does mean that we need to learn to accept what things are and to recognize when there's nothing we can do to change something. Far from resigning ourselves to suffering and unnecessary pain, this approach allows us to see when it's time to walk away from things and people that are not good for us. That is what empowerment is really about. We can't change something if we don't accept it. Only when we accept what actually is are we able to see if we can change it or not. For example, if we do not accept that a partner is abusive, We can't address the actual problem. We will keep trying to address the abusive behavior itself, which doesn't work, and in this context is actually not even the problem. An abuser's behavior is a symptom of a much larger, much more fundamental problem. The actual problem is that this person believes it's okay to hurt other people. They believe their behavior is justified, and that belief can be extremely difficult to change. It cannot be changed by you. It has to be changed by them. And the reality with narcissists specifically is that even if they change a behavior, the belief that they have the absolute right to hurt and punish other people does not change. They just do something else, something just as harmful, just as damaging to the other person and to the relationship. This person is clearly not willing or able to change this mindset, or they would have done so by now. You are not the first person to tell them that their behavior is wrong and harmful, and you will not be the last. It hasn't mattered to them so far, and there's no reason to conclude that it ever would, especially if there are no consequences. And to be clear, being told that they've hurt other people is not a consequence for people with empathy deficits. It has no impact on them at all, really. You can't impact narcissists with your feelings. You can only make an impact on them with theirs. And for this to matter in any way, they have to legitimately lose something. This does not guarantee that they will ever understand that the loss they have incurred is a direct result of their own actions. To be honest, the nature of the pathology essentially precludes that. But facing no consequences at all removes the possibility for them to learn anything, and besides that, it's the right and fair thing. People should face natural consequences for their behavior. These personalities typically only change something when they are literally forced to do so somehow, and even that's not a guarantee that they ever will or that they even can actually do it. Many of them are left with nothing in the end, and they still cannot see the problem. They still do not understand that the problem is them. That's why the only thing you can do is accept the reality and decide what you're going to do about it for yourself. It's important to remember this doesn't mean what you will do for them to address the reality or what you will try to convince or even force them to do for you about the situation. It means what you are going to do about it for yourself to change your own circumstances. You can't change the beliefs or behaviors of another person, but you can change your own circumstances. You can exit situations and relationships that are not good for you. That you have power over, and that's all the power you really need. Stop looking for loopholes. Stop hoping you're going to be the sole exception in millions upon millions of different situations that all ended the same. Stop looking for ways to justify being in a harmful, hopeless situation. If you're going to stay in it for whatever reason, that's up to you. Lots of people do that. But at least admit to yourself what it really is and how it's going to go. That gives you at least some ability to protect yourself from the trauma of endless toxic hope and unrealistic expectations. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype and Zoom for clients worldwide. So if you are interested in speaking with me one-on-one about this or anything else, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I have several books in publication, so if you're interested in picking up a copy of any or all of those, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that or find them on amazon.com. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics throughout the year, so if you are interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. And if you are interested in joining our support group with access to exclusive content, weekly support meetings, included attendance to all workshops, and more, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You have been listening to the Meditations and More podcast here on thelittleshaman.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts, brought to you by Relational Healing, shamanspiritcenter.com, and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.
If you've been struggling through dealing with or recovering from an unhealthy relationship with a narcissist or other toxic personality, the Little Shaman has a catalog of over 500 YouTube videos designed to support your journey from discovery to recovery. You can also find additional resources on the Little Shaman website, including tools, courses, workshops, a support group with weekly meetings, and one-on-one appointments with the Little Shaman that are open to clients worldwide. There's even an AI chatbot built and trained exclusively by the Little Shaman using her work that can answer questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For more information, visit littleshaman.org. You can listen to The Little Shaman wherever you find your favorite podcasts.